Okay. Okay, welcome to volume 3 of Started from the Bottle. Today we are talking to Iksir Wines and Wonder8. We have Aurelie Khoros from Iksir. She's the marketing lead and she's been doing that for quite a while now. And we have Elie and Aya, who are the team from Wonder8 who handle the Iksir account. Elie is the creative director and Aya is the senior program manager. So they have come together and they're creating the communications that present Iksir to the world. Now, Iksir is a winery that is in Batroun. It dates back to 2008. In case you were filling out that quiz, now you can see where your answers fall. So it's a relatively young winery when it comes to the age of wine or wines. 10 years is really not a very long time. But given that, it's actually really penetrated the market with a lot of strength, with a very clear message. It's very out there. It's one of the top brands now, not just in the country, but it's also building a reputation abroad. And this says a lot for a small winery in a small country when it comes to the big world of wine. Wonder8 is a marketing, branding, and digital agency. They've got offices in Beirut, Dubai, London, and Riyadh. And they handle all the branding and communications as well as the brand image, let's say, of Iksir. So I want to go first to Aurelie, and you can introduce us to Iksir, like where it started out and where we are at today, given all of the challenges that we're facing right now in the country and in the world. And then we can jump to the Wonder8 team, and they can tell us how you guys work together to get this message across to the rest of the world.
Okay. Hi, Farah. So first I wanted to just say that, like Farah said, it's true, we're not a very old brand. We started in 2008, and I think that at the time, what was changing a bit in the wine scene, Lebanon has been producing wine for a very, very long time. And we've had few wineries around the 90s. And I think that starting from there, a lot of has been changing from 90s. So I think, if I'm not mistaken, we're around 50 plus, or a bit more now.
Yeah, as of like early 2000s, we started climbing. And now we're, I mean, it depends on who you ask, but we're like almost reaching 70, depending on how you define
70.
it. Yeah,
exactly. So there was a really, really big boom, and we think that by 2008, we felt as Iksir and the founders of Iksir felt like there was, if you want, an opportunity. The Lebanese people were starting to get really curious about wine and started to really want to taste something different. And we think that this opportunity was a lot of work that a lot of wineries has done before. And I think that by the time we felt that there was something that we could give and maybe have a wine that would be a bit different, that would be more interesting for people at the time. So the founders of Iksir, it's true we're a young brand, but all of the founders had a lot of experience selling, buying, and making wine. So all of, if you want, the pillars of Iksir were all into the wine industry for a very long time. They just got together and at a certain point decided that they wanted to do something on their own, and that they wanted to do a wine that would define best what they thought the Lebanese people would want, and also what Lebanon could give. And the idea was really to have something that would be maybe a bit more expensive, because let's face it, as Iksir, we are a brand that's a bit more expensive than other brands on the market, but just giving them something that would be better in quality and something that would be maybe also different.
When you say different, what do you mean exactly by that, though?
Exactly. We mean that today Iksir is the wine that harvests its grapes from 6 different vineyards around Lebanon. So the idea was really to showcase the diversity that Lebanon is, and within also the blend would be to just really go out of the usual blends and the usual ranges that the Lebanese were used to back into 2008, because from then onwards, I think a lot of things has changed, and a lot of wineries has been doing some wines that are different and that have like very special blends. So at the time, it was something new, it was something different. We know that Lebanon is a very small country, and we like to say that we swim and ski on the same day, which is sometimes true, but this comes really from the diversity, and we felt as Iksir that we really wanted to showcase that and show that you can have like different terroirs around Lebanon, so different lands that would have different soils, different climates, and different sun exposition, different precipitation, and all of that would really create a specific environment that would be specific for this area. So a big study, if you want, has been done on Lebanon, just to select exactly what were the lands and where we would want to have our vines. A lot of them were already available because in 2008 we were working on vines that were already planted. We started producing then, so we already had grapes, and the idea, if you want, was really to be able to select these grapes and to be able to really showcase this is a diversity that we wanted to have in our wines. So this is how, if you want, Iksir became the wine of the Lebanese mountains, and we're going to say that 6 different Lebanese mountains, because all of the terroir, contrary to others at the time, are not in the Bekaa Valley. They're mostly on the slope of the Bekaa. We have a vineyard in the south of Lebanon in Jizin, and we have one also in north in Nainata, as well as in Batroun. So we're spread, if you want, across Lebanon, and I think that that's what makes us special, and like I was saying, Farah, different in a way that we showcase the diversity not of only one area, but really many areas around Lebanon. And I think that, again, going back to Wonder Age, you're going to see how this also is showcased in our bottles as well.
Just one thing, because like this is something I always think about, is technically the winery is in Batroun, but because you have grapes coming from across the country, it's not technically just a winery of Batroun, right? Like, would it still be classified that way? Because you have...
if you want, we're based in Batroun because the wine actually comes out from Batroun. So we're a winery that is based, and all of the grapes are then brought to Batroun, and the wine comes out of Batroun. So we are a winery from Batroun, but it's true that we have another, let's say, dimension, because our vineyards are spread across Lebanon in different areas. So it's a bit, so we like to say that we're a wine of like the Lebanese mountains. So, but we specify ourselves as Batroun, so we cannot. So our heart lies in Batroun, but still we have like vineyards across.
Now, I had Elie. So, yeah, no, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I wanted to bring you guys into the conversation. How has it been different coming from, you guys as Wonder 8 work on a lot of food and beverage brands. You work on a lot of entities in this domain. How is it different when you work with a winery, and how has it changed, like, as far as your approach? Have you learned something different from having to work with a wine brand that is technically established? Does it give you room to kind of be more creative, or does it come with, like, when you have a brand that is so set up, usually comes with a toolbox and that's how you have to work with it? Or have you had the chance to really kind of go wild with the brand, because it has shifted over the years?
Yeah, to answer you, I think it's mainly 2 points. Whether it's different from other F&B or FMCG brands, definitely wine is on a whole another level, and especially for Iksir. Usually when we're working with any product, it has both attributes. You have the technical things that you want to communicate, the physical parts, and you have the values and the intangible side. But with wine, it's definitely, there's a high level of attachment to the product you're buying. Wine is usually, when you purchase it, it's driven by the brand. So we have a very big importance to put, and the more weight and depth to put into the brand here. There's a lot, there's a passion, there's an extra layer that you don't find it with other products. So while technically we're communicating and working on both sides, when it comes to wine brands, you really have to push forward both aspects. So whether it's the land you're coming from, the process, but also the part that has to say who you're talking to and who you're affiliating to, and the story you're telling. So actually, no, it's not. It does not limit us. When we're working with wine, there's a lot to talk about. There's so many stories to tell, and I think this we're gonna see a lot of stories that we went through with Iksir, and I definitely find it liberating on the creative part, working with wine, especially with Iksir.
Do you agree, being the director on this?
it's important here to note something that definitely when you're working with a young wine, it's totally a different story than working with a brand that is like it has a heritage or like it's 20, 30, or 40 years old or 100 years old. So that's why you can notice from our communication strategies for Elixir that we have a different edge from other wineries, which is the young aspect of the brand. So that's why the focus of our discussion maybe today is about the limited editions of Elixir and why do we actually go with such a strategy. If we come to think about it, Elixir coexists with many different good brands of wine in Lebanon. So, but our main edge is, like Aurelie has said, that already Elixir comes from 6 different regions that are spread across Lebanon. So already we have an interesting story here. It's a story that is very relevant to the Lebanese audience. It's a story about unity, and definitely it sparks many layers of storytelling, as in inclusivity, diversity, and many topics that are now actually hot topics internationally. So coming to think about it, and all these stories that we can communicate about Elixir, from here came the idea of translating them into limited edition bottles. And you might say, why limited edition bottles? Why don't we communicate these stories through, let's say, campaigns or on social media and content? The idea is simple, because we want the Elixir to be really true to the ideas or the ideas that we stand for, and definitely want to be more approachable. We didn't want to be a punk or on an outdoor, for example. We wanted the Elixir actually to be part of this conversation, a conversation opener. So you take the wine bottle with you at home, and it definitely communicates with you that certain idea or notion or whatever you're trying to communicate. And if you think about it, every single year we produce 4 to 5 different limited edition bottles, which is a lot. And if you think about it, every single year our audience sees a completely different wine bottle from the year before. This is definitely a daring strategy to start with, and it definitely reflects the dynamism of a young wine brand. And this is where we stand right now when we communicate Elixir. So everything starts from the bottle and ends with the bottle. It's a 360 communication that definitely starts with our main idea or theme of the year, that starts with the bottle, and everything else that comes around, which is an outdoor campaign, digital content, market activities. It always starts and ends with the bottle, and those themes that we create are always true to the brand or what we stand for as Elixir. So that's why it's always dynamic. You were saying how we work together as Elixir and Vol.3. The dynamics are already there because we both understand where we want to take the brand or which direction we're setting the brand to. So every single, let's say, brainstorming session that we do together, we're always aligned in terms of the big idea of the brand, no matter what the ideas can be or what we're tossing around or what we're playing with.
How did that start?
Yeah, sorry.
No, you were on a roll. I didn't want to cut you off. It was like, but how did that whole process start? Because, I mean, you guys are now on the same page and you know that you want to communicate this through the bottles, but how did that begin? For people who maybe aren't familiar with the process of, working with an agency as a brand, regardless of what the brand is, but when it's a winery working with a creative agency, how does that begin? Aurelie, maybe you can kick it off.
Yes. Yes, actually,
so that's a huge topic. That's a big topic.
It's big. I'm just going to try to, as much as possible, make it a bit shorter. Actually, as a brand, Elixir always had advertising agencies. So myself, I was one of the person in the first team of Elixir at Satchip when the brand started, and they were the ones who create the name, create the labels. So there was a lot of input that was done there. At a certain point in time, we felt that we wanted something different, and then we moved to another agency, also another big agency in Lebanon. So this is, if you want, like 4 years into the brand, and then we realized that we we as a team, we're a very small team. We're very dynamic. We work some sort of like a startup, and we felt that in order to have just, if you want, this synergy, we really wanted to look for another team that would work and be the same way that we are. Because today as a brand, you really need to be aligned on the cultural, if you want, side and aspect of things, just to be able to align and be on the same level. And I think that this is what helped a lot into making bits and like the puzzle fit together. I remember like the first time that I met with Wonder8, it was really effortless, if you want, in a way, because like it felt like home when we went to the agency. I remember like the people. I remember that like even like like the culture, the way they work, the way the offices are. And I think that this is very important, to be able to be on the same page and to be able to take a brand forward. There needs to be like this sort of synergy. And I think that for us, this is what made, if you want, this like alliance, just a partnership, into something much stronger. I think that I think that this is how it was. I mean,
that's already a huge sign, though. I mean, you're saying it started off at Saatchi. It started like, so from the beginning of the brand, it was involved in a creative, development of it. It's not that it was an afterthought. It was something that was from the get-go and continued on till today, which is rare when it comes to, building something that is very much rooted in agriculture. And maybe a lot of people don't think that it's not that it's necessary until, it's going to become something commercial. Whereas when that's the goal from the beginning, and they really take that into account from building the brand from zero, when it's still at zero, that's something that's quite unique, I think.
I think that also some of the aspects that we had at the beginning is really to be able to have a consistent brand. I think that also when Ixir was created, if you'd gone to the supermarket and just look at the shelf, you'd see that it was a bit complicated to be able to choose a wine in Lebanon. You'd have sometimes very complicated names, a lot of sub-brands, and not all of the labels were really incoherent, so it was not really easy. And I remember myself like being very, very, you have a lot of peer pressure and a lot of like you're shy away from wine brands. Like you just pick the one and just run away from the shelves when it's not really comfortable, if you want, for you to choose. So I think as a consumer, when like the aspect, when everything is more coherent and when everything is clear, and I think that's where, like, when they founded the brand and they had this idea, I think that was one of the main and foremost important point, is really to create a brand that would be true to itself and really well structured, and something that would be able to stand the test of time. Like, we've been here for 10 years and you look at the label and you feel that they are still coherent, that they are still they don't need that much of an uplift, let's say. So they're really worked in the best way.
And I think that's part of the success behind Ixir, that from the beginning you had this vision about it. So a lot of wine brands in Lebanon, they will start small and then get lost along the way, and this is not the case here.
Elie, do you want to drop in?
Well, like that guy relationship.
You can see that all eyes are on you now.
It's a group therapy.
Yeah, like I mean, I wanted to stress on how
about the process. Let me tell you, because all the process, you have a unique process when it comes to Wonder8. That's why it's a huge process. What we do with our clients, but the most important thing from all of that, from all the process that we do, from all the research and discovery and the strategy that we do before any creative work starts, the most important thing is what Aurelie said, is that establishing a good and coherent relationship with our client, because that synergy is actually what makes the creative work brilliant at the end of the day. So this is what's important, and this is what makes our relationship with Ixir unique, because again, we're aligned on whatever we're doing. So that's it, basically.
So once you have this brief, or once Ixir is now part of Wonder8 and you guys are working together, how did that kick off? And is it now that you start from the bottle and then you create a campaign around that, or is everything happening in parallel? Like you have a bottle going and you have a campaign going and you have,
Let me tell you.
What's the process?
In general, these limited edition bottles that we do yearly, they are the highlight of our year, because these are produced for the end of year, which is the peak season for wine sales. So what happens, we have many activities, like, let's say, or many smaller campaigns throughout the year, but definitely this is our biggest campaign, let's say. And definitely it starts by the bottle, because every single year we choose a theme, and this theme rolls out on the bottles, whether they are the altitude or the ground reserve. And definitely we build everything around them. So we start by choosing the theme, then we create 3 sub-themes for the altitude bottles. Then we track down the artists that we want to work with. And later on, we just go from there to develop our promotional videos and campaign to be ready by end of year. It's a process that takes more than 8 or 9 months to produce.
And how do you decide on who you're going to work with as far as the artists or the designers that are going to be working on these bottles? Like, how does that elimination process occur? And is it just through the network that you know, or like, is it the style you're looking for? How do you pick a theme? You know, like, I'm trying to dissect the...
Okay. Actually, starting from how we pick the theme, the first 3 years of these 4 limited edition years that we've done, we started with the Exir pillars, or the guiding principles, let's say. They were our, let's say, our guiding element to choose our theme. So the first year it was about the mountains, the second year it was about sustainability, and the third was about diversity. So by the first 3 years, we have covered everything that we stand for as a brand, as Exir. So it always starts by, let's say, choosing the theme. After we select the theme, we go for 3 sub-themes that will help us give each theme to a certain artist. Then we track down artists. We usually do that by selecting the artist that has work relevant to what we're trying to communicate. So we don't alienate the artist, or we don't force him to do anything that is not in his style or what he sees, actually. So this is how it begins, and how we find our artists. Actually, we scout our artists on social media. We track them down, and in Lebanon, everybody knows everyone. So if you like the work of an artist, it's really easy to get in touch with
and
them.
we actually keep an eye on the artists around the year, so we don't wait until we have the brief. It's like something in the back of our head. Mm-hmm. So whenever we get to know an artist or see something social, we just store it in the end of year bottle.
That's something really important that you mentioned, was that you don't make them adapt to your style. It's more that their style is highlighted through Exir.
Yes, even the sub-theme, when we're briefing the artist, the sub-theme is really vague. The brainstorming session or the briefing session is really very vague and very loose, because we don't try to dictate the big idea to the artist. We try our best. Let's say to give them the freedom to express themselves, because it's important here to say why we collaborate with these artists. We collaborate with artists on our Altitude brand because Altitude is the younger face of Exir, and we thought that it's starting already a younger generation, let's say, of wine consumers. So because of that, we thought of collaborating with young artists, to voice young artists and give them a platform to express themselves and to express their talents and put it under the spotlight. Because, as you know, after producing these bottles, you're promoting actually these artists in all the supermarkets across Lebanon, and through outdoor campaigns and digital content. So that's the main idea of using or collaborating with young artists. And for us as Exir, what happens in the end is that these artists or the work of Altitude help us also to let's say, nurture our voice in the minds of people. So how they perceive us as a young, fresh, and dynamic brand. This happens through these pieces of artwork that goes on the bottle. Now we're talking about the artists. So it's important here to mention that all the artists now, we have like 11 artists that we've collaborated with till now. And all I can say is that it was a real pleasure to work with all these artists. They are really super passionate, they're very talented and very collaborative. So here we need to just give a shout out to all these artists and push people to support and promote Lebanese talents, definitely.
Yeah, I wanted to add just one thing here also is I remember the first year when we decided to do these bottles, we decided to do 3 bottles. And I remember that I was a bit panicked. I told them, but if we do this year 3 bottles and next year 3 bottles, you know, we're going to run out of artists. Like, how many artists can we find? And I remember that at the time we really thought it would be really difficult for us to look for the artists. And I remember the first year we were looking around, but then and I think that now in our state we were overwhelmed. I think that we have so many artists, and even, you know, what's funny and what's nice also as well is we started to be approached by artists as well. So it started being, if you want, 2 ways. We have a lot of people that come to us and say, hey, we like what you've been doing and we would really love it if you could give us, for example, a bottle next year. And also what's really nice is you see the artist's evolution, if you want, throughout the years. Like, there are people that really became someone, if you want, they're all, but like they really made it. And what's nice is that we can see them and the way we worked with them, and they're still like very true to what they are and like their design. And if you look at their bottle, you're automatically going to know it's there. So that also is really, really nice to see the evolution of an artist and see that, like, the bottle, like, you'd see it's a real partnership when you see that the person, like, after a few years, their work is, or it's still the same as whatever they had on the bottle like 3 years ago. So that also makes it like even better.
And I think there's something to say about it being a bit different every year, not just because of a theme, but there was one year where you had 3 different artists with 3 different bottles, and one year you had 3 different bottles from one artist. So it's constantly like, it's not rigid as far as like how you're gonna
exactly.
And then I wanted to mention
the theme dictates that, right?
What?
The theme dictates our collaboration with artists and the number of artists that we're using. So I don't know, we can plug the screen now. We can share the screen.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, before going to the bottle you're holding,
it's my favorite.
we love it. It's one of our favorites too. So.
It's super nerdy. I think that's why I love it.
We're keeping that for last. Yeah.
We have one question about the artists and payment, the ones that you collaborate with. What kind of relationship is that? Is it like
actually what we do is like more of a partnership. What happens is we give them a gift of 100 bottles of their own design so they can share with all of their friends. And what happens is that we as Iksir support them throughout any kind of, if you want, event that they would do. So for example, if one of them has like a store opening or if they have like a launch of anything, so we're here to always support them. So we do sponsoring of their events, and we give away wine, and we try as much as possible to help that way.
Okay. So, Elie, you're going to share your screen.
Okay, so we'll go now on a visual tour of all our limited editions that we've done for the past 4 years. We'll start with Attitude. 1 second. Okay. So the first one was in 2016, and the main theme was the environment and the green mountains. So because we're the wine of the Lebanese mountains, so here we collaborated with Jad Al-Khouri, Dima Boulad, and Zena Abi Rashid, and this was our first collaboration with artists. We've learned a lot technically through that process. Here I have, for example, the Dima Boulad's bottle. We love this bottle, actually. The design is amazing. But what we've learned that we can't use this much white on the bottles because people thought that this is not red wine, this is white wine. So that's why you can realize that from the other years, we've dropped the white. You don't use white anymore. So it's always a learning process. You asked what you're learning from all this collaboration. So it's always enriching because we learn a lot from our artists, we learn a lot from the process of printing, and from the people's feedback also on the campaign. So,
was there a favorite this year on those 3?
Was there a favorite?
Yeah, like do you?
In terms of sales, you mean, or?
Is there a way that you track that, like which one sells out most, or?
We track that actually, but we never tell anyone. We love our babies equally, so.
Okay, fine.
You're not getting an answer here.
Was worth a try.
This is 2017, the sustainability edition. Definitely, as you can see, that the pillars of Elixir are really tough topics. They're not easy topics to put into art. So what we tried to do was to simplify these ideas. So here, for example, for sustainability, we collaborated with Joseph Fay, Salim Azzam, and Rana Zahir. What we tried to do is to give every one of them an element from nature, and we told them to work with it. We tried as much as possible to select the theme, the sub-theme that is most relevant to the artist and the artist's work. So for Joseph, it was the water, the sea, and for Salim, it was earth, and for Rana, it was the sky, the wind, and the sun. And here are some close-ups on their work. We love Rana's work. It's very detailed, very intricate, just amazing. And it's inspired from her archaeological studies. And here is a close-up of Salim's work. I have Joseph's version with me. So it's really very, very nice, very thought-provoking actually, because it was all about recycling and plastic recycling. I'm sorry. And now we'll be watching the promotional video that we use for our artists to promote, or let's say to explain the concepts that they worked on. This promotional video actually runs on our digital platforms. So we'll be seeing the video of that year of 2018. 2017, sorry.
أهل ضيعتي كان عنده ثقافة الأرض وعرفوا كيف يعيشوا منها ويستفيدوا من ثروتها. تعلمت منه شو مهم الإنسان ياكل مما بيزرع، وكيف الأرض إذا أعطيتها بتعطيك ما بتسألك عن مقابل.
ضل نفكر بالأجيال الجاي، شو رح نترك لهم من تراثنا وقصصنا وقلبنا؟ قد إيه منيح حيكون عندهم فرصة يفتشوا عن هويتهم الخاصة.
كبرت ببيت أهلي وين نشوف الخط الأزرق كل يوم من البلكون. كان بعد في مناطق وين البحر منه ملوث، فكنا نروح نسبح فيه. كأننا عم نحتفل بهالثروة الطبيعية قبل ما تختفي. البحر، الأنهار، الشلالات، المي الجوفية،
الشتاء، الثلج، الشجر، الأرض. اليوم هالثروة كلها عم تختفي قدام عيوننا.
ونحن أنا
أنت
يلي
قادرين نرجعه.
Just one thing is, what's nice also about this video is they actually wrote the entire script. So we asked them to just talk about their bottles and what they would want to say, and they were the ones to really. This is why, like, you can see every one of them has their own way and their own words into saying whatever the story of their bottle is.
I feel like as a creative, that's something that's almost like you don't really get to do that after you leave university or, you know, official training. You don't get that kind of freedom in a project. But it's also something that can be very daunting as a creative when it's like, here you go, do something with it. Especially when it's like, oh, and by the way, this is Elixir, and, you know, like, we're an established brand and everybody's going to see this. No pressure.
But actually, it's quite a privilege when you have that level of freedom to create your work. So it's always rewarding to see content like this with that liberty, as you said, because here we're trying to communicate a bigger cause that is promoted by Elixir. So it's always a privilege.
You guys know what the theme is for this year, considering it's been a weird one? Survival.
Let's say we selected a theme, but we'll see how the year goes.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll continue. This is the 2018 edition, which was diversity edition. For that year, we collaborated only with one artist. We collaborated with Rafael Macaro. We collaborated here with one artist because we wanted to highlight the diversity of the lands where Elixir is coming from, and from diversity we find unity. That was the big theme. That's why we tried to select one artist, because we wanted to highlight the difference between the regions, and we didn't want the different styles of the artists to, let's say, to overshadow the main thought that we're trying to communicate here. I found some sketches from Raphael's work that are worth showing. This was one of her first sketches where she displayed the three regions next to each other. As you can see, if the bottles are stacked next to one another, they can actually create a continuous line. Here we can see the bottles and how she combined each two regions with each other. For example, this visual is for Batoon and Jazine. We can see the water element here is common between both. This is the Deir al-Ahmar and the Bilyas. And the third one is Niha and Aynata. And you can see here at the summit with the snow.
Was this because it was also the anniversary year, or like, is that why you decided to go with diversity as a theme?
Aurelie?
Yes, actually, yes. Effectively, the last year of our pillar was the 10th anniversary, and from this year we had three, if you want, different types of bottles that were launched. So we had the altitude with these bottles. We had a Grand Reserve also edition that was also about diversity, and the third one, which was like exceptional, was our DDM bottle, which is I think something that we're going to go through. And if you want this specific theme, if you want, is like the purpose of Elixir, like I was telling you at the beginning, really Elixir was created to showcase diversity. So we wanted to make it a point that for our 10th anniversary, we would really like highlight something that was really like the purpose and like the cause of Elixir and what it was initially created for.
Mm-hmm. So the Grand Reserve also kind of tie into the same theme, but it's in a different execution, let's say.
Exactly. I think that just technically, I just wanted to talk a bit about the bottles, the altitude bottles. So when we started the first year, like he said, we had a lot of learnings when it comes to the designs of the bottles. But I think what was very challenging for us at the beginning is really to be able to technically have it happen. If you want, in a way, when we started thinking this promotion, if you want to call it promotion, like this activity, like this end of year activity, we really wanted the bottle to be the gift. You know, in Lebanon, a lot of wines just gift an opener or like a glass or maybe other items. And the idea is we really didn't want to go into something like that. We wanted people to buy the bottle for the bottle itself rather than just for a gift. So this is where the idea came from, and really creating this limited edition bottle. A lot of brands has done it. It's not something that we've invented in a way. There are a lot of brands that does like collectible limited edition, but for Lebanon, it was really the first time that we were able to really design and be able to dress the bottle from head to toe. And it was complicated in a way because technically you don't have it, like you really need to figure it out. And just the first limited edition, we were able to crack the way to do it just a couple of weeks before it was supposed to launch. So it was really like a big risk that we took at the time. But I think that with a lot of trials and with a lot of dedication, specifically from the team at the winery, because I know how much they work, like you have to think that each bottle is really dressed by itself alone. So this is actually like a sleeve, a plastic sleeve that shrinks on the bottle to be able to dress it in a colorful way. Mm-hmm. And then, like you said, Farah, the Grand Reserve is a completely different treatment. The Grand Reserve is actually printed on the bottle itself. So there are two different types of treatment, and there are things that would work for example, the altitude, which, for example, are the colors, and you can see like they're very vibrant and bright. But for the Grand Reserve, won't be the case because the material itself will not be able, like the glass is always going to be black for the Grand Reserve because the glass is black for a red wine bottle, and so there are a lot of technicalities that you have to work around just in terms of production.
Is all of that done abroad? Because it's almost like it's foil and etching. Is that something we can do locally, or it has to be done?
No, locally, unfortunately, it hasn't been done because you need really a big, it's like a very heavy industry. You really need to be able to have they silk screen every bottle, and then it goes into an oven. And so it's like, if you can see, like the different colors are different passes, and you have like a special treatment for the UV. So no, the altitude bottles are produced in Lebanon, yes, but the Grand Reserve are not. They're shipped from abroad.
Oh yeah, I want to get you in here. You've been quiet for a little bit.
Yeah.
I feel like as someone who's the project manager in this, you basically work between the agency and the winery. So you're kind of like the translator between them.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
How does that work? And like, where is there the biggest, part that you struggle with, let's say, when it comes to those two, trying to work between them?
I think we're gonna jump back to something that Elie said before, alignment. It's really essential. And especially whenever someone outside of the world of advertising thinks of brands, all he thinks of is like maybe graphic work, something artsy, but a big part of building a brand is the internal communication that happens. So something we always make sure to do is we always meet, we always discuss what's coming next, not what we have now, to make sure we're aligned. So we're always reviewing what's coming next, what are the offerings, what is going on right now that we can work on for the brand. And it's always an open conversation between the agency and the client side. It's never something that is dictated either by the client or just pushed and forced by the agency. There's always a way to have a middle ground, especially when we're working with, as we were saying, a young brand looking forward to reach a specific vision. So far, it's been a cool trip and a really easy one with Iksir. We're always try to find a way to meet in the middle, and so far it's been going well.
Okay, good. I have to make sure to highlight everybody's role in this process. It's something that I think not enough people understand as far as the different layers of communicating, not just a winery brand, but brands in general. But when it comes to wineries specifically, they have a whole other layer of technical issues and understanding the actual science behind the product and trying to get that across to people that may not know anything about it. So there's a lot of layers to unpack. Elie, do you want to keep going? Or no, I'm not going to cut you off.
I was just going to add something. Like usually from winery side, there's the business side. You always want to make sure that you are having the enough targets and present enough places. And in the agency side, you always want to be as artsy as you can. But as I was saying, there's always a way to make it sellable yet artistically intelligent. Now you can go. Sorry, I cut you.
Okay, so after 3 years of highlighting the pillars of Iksir, we decided to go last year with a theme that is a little bit lighter. So on the brighter side, so we decided to go with a theme that is it's all about celebration, and we took 3 sub-themes. One with about the family, celebrating with the family. One was celebrating with friends, and the third celebrating with your loved one. So. To start with, we collaborated with Louis Daoust, who worked on the family celebration. We loved his take actually on that theme because he mixed the traditions with the departed people of the family and the people who are still here. So it's just a celebration of never-ending traditions. So it was nice.
It was very like Dia de los Muertos. Kind of, associating with the spirits that have passed and celebrating their legacy.
It's actually the traditions that they planted in you somehow, so they're still always there in everything that you do and all the details that you do or you create during that eve. So it was nice.
They're so like emotional during this time.
Yes, actually, people are. I think anything that you do has to touch the person who is receiving it. So the emotional thread should always be there because actually, end of the day, we are humans, and this is what moves us: the emotions, the memories, the way that we connect with one another, and definitely the way we connect with the brand. So it's all.
And specifically, I think also. Yeah, and I think specifically also wine, because it's sharing, and specifically at the end of the year, so you have like these stories and like sitting with a bottle of wine, sharing it with a friend. So I agree with Elie, like it's always about the storytelling, and the emotion needs to always be there, just to remind people that it's true that we do a lot of business, and it's true that we're technical, but at the end of the day, the idea of a bottle of wine, like you can know a lot of details about the different grapes and where it comes from and all of these stuff behind it, but if you don't enjoy it, then what's the use? Like the idea really is to be able to just sit back and really like enjoy and have a nice time around it, even if you don't understand it. If you like it, then that's enough.
Also, Luai's bottle, I think it was just another example of how when you give the artist the freedom to express this emotion, the surprise you get. Like what we had in mind in the brief, I remember it was talking about family gatherings. At the end of the day, we didn't have any expectations, and like here we have Jiddo stealing qira'at from the table. So you were saying it's daunting for the artist, but it's also a very big happy surprise for us whenever an artist's working on bottle.
And it's important here to see the different styles of artists that we're working with. So for this year, 2019, it's Luai and Romy that we'll be seeing her artwork now. Both have like that cartoonish side to their work, which was a first for us in terms of artworks with artists. So this is Romy Matar's artwork, and it's about celebrating with friends. It's like that New Year's Eve in a Manchai Lincoln bar or something. So all the memories, all the details that you see, all types of friends that you might meet there, and all they are enjoying their glass of wine and just cheering up for a new year.
We've got one question about branding of Grand Reserve and the L bottles, if that's going to come up.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're
like
just
we're getting there, and we need to move faster. Okay, so for 2019, as usual, we always have three bottles, and for last year, unfortunately, the third bottle, which was designed by the talented Wissam Eid, was actually stopped. It was not a censorship issue, as we weren't able, let's say, to produce this bottle because it actually
it would have been censored.
In the most politically correct way. So
can we know why?
This bottle was dedicated to promoting celebration with your loved one, and actually it featured all forms of love, let's say, all forms of love.
It was all about inclusion, actually. Yeah.
Yes, and we were advised not to release the bottle because we will not be able to produce or to put it on shelves, sadly. And you know, this freedom of expression battle is something that we face every day in Lebanon, and as artists, definitely each of these artists this is their bread and butter to try to and express themselves, and we owe it to Wissam to eventually produce this bottle. That's why we didn't show it here. We didn't want to expose it on digital because it was meant to be produced on a bottle, and that's our aim. That's what we're trying to do. So hopefully we'll be doing that.
You guys did have a animation on your Instagram that represented all forms of love on Valentine's Day. There was a small animation that featured two people sharing a table or a glass, a bottle of wine together, and it was all kinds of couples, not just one certain accepted form of it. So I guess that one kind of made it under the radar, or was that like?
If you want, it's a bit complicated because this bottle was destined to go into supermarkets and was meant to be distributed. So you had a lot of different, if you want, counterparts throughout the process. So this is why it was really, it would have been censored. But today, we're lucky enough to really have a good audience on social media, and we're lucky enough also to have an agency that was able to tweak the message and keep it. Because as I said in the beginning, like what's really important is really for our brand to always be true to itself. So if we wanted to do that, so if we have another opportunity, we will continue. It's not that if it's going to be shut down in a way, then we're going to shy away from it. No, the idea is really to be able to voice what we believe and what we stand for as a brand, and this is where the animation came from. And I think it was very genuine. Even like, if you want, it was not really planned. Like, there was not like a it was
Big deal.
just a Valentine post that we really wanted to post, and that was it. So we really didn't want to go into a lot of details, and actually we were surprised, and we were very happy to see the response that it got. It got a really it got viral in a way. A lot of people shared it, and we're really happy to see that despite, if you want, the fact that the bottle would have been censored, we still have like these values, and we still know that the Lebanese people would eventually have accepted this bottle. So I think, Elie,
No.
I just wanted to say that go Elie.
Yes, all I wanted to say is just like Aurelie said, we always wanted to be true to ourselves and to what the brand as Exir stands for. So there's nothing that we do is it's not about like showing the brand's muscles or like a daring aspect, or we can do that, or we can promote topics that are controversial. It's not about that. It's what the brand truly stands for, and this is what pushes us. So when Valentine came, like it was 2 months after the bottles issue, it was a no-brainer to produce content that is inclusive to everybody, because end of the day it's love. So who are we to judge people? So all we do is accept people and open a bottle of wine and just enjoy you being you. So that's it, and that's what we try to keep pushing with Exir, to be true to what the brand stands for. It is a young brand, and it stands with the younger generation and how we think and how we evolve as people. The brand is ready to evolve with our thinking and with the way we see things and how we see the world. And if the brand can push the envelope for the society to think in a more inclusive manner, than let it be. This is that's what we try to do.
I mean, ultimately, censorship will also at least start a conversation. So there's something there as well.
Definitely,
also, yes.
Okay, so now we get to the DZM. Aurelie, if you'd like to talk a little bit about the wine that went through.
Yes.
into the bottle.
So like I was saying, like for the 2018 editions, we had the diversity as a theme. So for this specific bottle, which is the first and the only one that we will do for Elie, it's numbered cases of Elie that contains 3 different bottles and a beautiful book about the mountains of Lebanon. And the idea, if you want, is to have this gift or this case as showcasing the diversity, like I said, of Lebanon. So you can see the illustration. Elie is going to go more into the details, but it's about the mountains and the sea and the history that Lebanon has in terms of winemaking. For the wine itself, it was a special wine because it's actually a blend of different vintages of Elie. So it's not a vintage, it's different years. It's like, if you want, the 3 best vintages of the last 10 years that we blended together into this exclusive mix. So like, you know, like all wines have a vintage, and the vintage is the year that the wine has been harvested, the grapes has been harvested. So the idea behind this bottle is really to go one step further into the diversity and really showcase, like, in one sip, 3 different years, and like the best years that we had. And like, it's our best kept secret, because actually I don't even know what are the years that went into the wine, but our winemaker just did the selection, and it's a special blend that and it's in the boxes of 3 if you want just to taste the evolution over the years. So you can taste the first one, for example, 2 years from now, and then you can just have the chance to taste it again, because it's not going to be re-released. Just very few cases with these bottles that are going to be available.
That's interesting, because like I've never heard of a non-vintage red wine rather than a non-vintage champagne.
They actually do it in some countries, but because you know, like you have a lot of regulation into winemaking. So, for example, if you are part of an AOC or just a region with specific
rules,
regulation, you have to follow these rules. For example, in terms of grape varietal, and one if you want regulation that we got used to, but doesn't mean that it is a regulation, is the vintage. Today you can just have a wine and it can not have any vintage, and that's what that's if you want, like something that we really wanted to play with and just wanted to showcase, just 3 years brought together and what SIPO can do. No, I'm sorry, I just saw the question. No, these boxes are not sold at the supermarket. This is a box that's only sold at the winery boutique, and it's at Enoteca as well. So
the design behind this bottle, how did that come about?
So I think Elie, if you want to go ahead.
Yes, let me just say that everything that we do in terms of limited editions for altitude is what we collaborate with artists. The other bottles are being produced by Wonder8, so they are designed by Wonder8. So this is one of the bottles designed at the agency. What we try to do here is to create like a tribute to the winemaking in Lebanon. So I will go to the other slide to show you the illustration. This is not the illustration I went to on the bottles, but here just to be more visible. So as you can see, we can, if you start from the bottom side, we start with like the Phoenician port in Batroun. We go up to Basbina to see the winery, the 17th century house actually. We go and see the Bekaa Valley and the Baalbek temple, and we go to Jizin and all the mountains that we produce the wines from. So this was like a designed map of winemaking history in Lebanon and all the regions that were famous for producing grapes or wine. And from that, we produced a photography book about Iksir. So because the design, let's say, was really an authentic illustration, we wanted to balance it out with the execution that is a little bit more modern. So as you can see here in the book, the design is all spot UV, black on black. And if you remove the sleeve, you can see the bottle in black spot UV. So the process of producing the book was really very interesting. So we roamed Lebanon to produce all these photography shots. And if you follow the book, you can see all the terroirs where Iksir comes from. So that was really an interesting project. And just to, for the sake of time, we will jump to Grand Reserve. For Grand Reserve, also all the bottles are designed at Wonder8, and here we can see the Gibran trilogy. These are 3 bottles of 2016, 2017, and 2018. Each one is highlighting the theme that was highlighted at that year for altitude at the same time. So 2016 was a tribute to the Lebanese mountains. 2017 was all about sustainability and preserving our forests. And the last one, it was about diversity. And this is our take on the design that was produced for Elie. So it was the 10th year celebration design. So here we added more colors. And as you can see in terms of production, as Aurelie has said earlier, these bottles, the design goes printed is directly printed on the bottles. Here what we do actually is, you can see the colors are very minimal. We will only go for metallics. The overall feel is very classic, which is not the case for altitude. Now we want to move to this year's edition, which apparently you love it, Farah. So this is for you. For 2019, Iksir decided for the first year to produce a wine bottle that is coming from one region only, so from one terroir. So this was a new thing for Iksir. For this time, it wasn't about the Lebanese mountains, it was about one specific region. And after our research, we found that the most important factor that shapes a wine or shapes the grapes or the wine is the climate. And that's why we decided to dig into the data of Batroun that year, because the vintage was coming from Batroun. So The design was driven by data, and what we did was we collected more than 6,000 data entries from Batroun. As you can see, the data is huge and very rigid. What we tried to do here was to try and create a visual interpretation of this of all this data to make it visually interesting. There was definitely 3 challenges, let's say, because what we're trying to do here was to communicate a story, the story of the grapes and how it moves from being on the vine until it comes to until it becomes wine. So here we did many, let's say, researches and sketches. As you can see, first, the overall field that we started with was very scientific. So you can see the charts more clearer than the one that we've done now, and even others that were more abstract. To arrive finally to let's say the overall field that we were creating. So for precipitation, for example, we've built let's say a sort of a template of the mountains of Lebanon. Then for the wind, we added details that look like particles flowing in the air. And as you can see, the legend and all the data is readable actually. And this is the temperature, which is the sun, and that's how it goes on the bottle. As I said, there were 3 main challenges here. We were trying to tell a story. We were trying to make it visually interesting for the people who are not interested in data. And the third thing was wanted to make the data readable. So if you just check the bottle, you can see actual data, you can dig real data from Batroun 2012. So that's basically it.
Where do you source all the data for this?
Excuse me?
Where do you source all the data for this? How did you get over 6,000 pieces of data? And then where did you start with going through?
Exactly. No, it was easier than you might think. The process of producing the design was harder than getting the data. I know from where your question is coming from, because data was the buzzword in the world of advertising and design for the past 12 or 13 years. But in Lebanon, we always struggled with getting actual data to drive our work from insights to design to anything else. So, but here when it was really easy, we had a database, an online database where we were able to collect all these data. However, the challenge was to take all this data and be selective and try to produce an artwork, an interesting design out of it. Here, a shout out is due to our brilliant designer Sarah Balut, who spent nights analyzing and designing these data. So now I think we will see a short case study of all the process that we did to produce this bottle.
Just before Elie, Chef Lebas, I just want to point out something that this bottle, what makes it also special is the wine that comes from this region, from this specific year, is what is bottled in the bottle. So as you can see, there's at the background and the back label of the bottle always like a small story. So this is a special edition, but it's a special selection as well that comes from the area of Batroun. So you can see that, for example, where you have the temperatures, you can read, for example, that you had very hot very hot summers. And what will help also is when tasting the wine is really to do a bit, if you want, this correlation that, for example, the fruit side will come from the sun, and for example, the minerality will come from the soil itself. So all of these data really, like Elie was saying, what is nice is you can read the bottle and you can also taste the wine and just understand really just how the climate affects the wine and the grapes.
There's one question coming in, how the branding relates to maybe the positioning of the product, I think is the real question. How,
yes,
you have altitude
actually,
entry level, so.
Yes, today I think that what I was saying at the beginning is that we really, when creating X-Series, we really wanted to have distinct range, something that would be for everyone. Of course, like you can be someone that would love altitude and Grande Reserve and L. It's like that would make all of our dreams come true, but it means that, but also what we're trying to do also is really to make a wine, for example, that is more approachable, something that's easier to drink when you come for the altitude range. So for example, if there's a new wine drinker, they would be more interested by the altitude range, and this is why also this is a range that is more fun for us to explore. It is with the limited edition, but also if you can just forget about the limited edition and just look also at the label, you'd see that the label of altitude has always been colorful, because this has always been just, if you want, the way the product and the ranges has been divided. The Grande Réserve also is a bit more, let's say, mature in terms of labels and in terms of image, but also is the limited edition. The limited edition needs to really follow within the brand. Like when we were working on the limited edition, it was very important for us not to lose the range itself and to be able as much as possible to just respect the range and all of the work that we've done, because it's difficult, and it might be like it's a very thin line. People will see your product on the shelf and it needs to be limited and different, but it still needs to be recognizable. So this is why you find that all of the limited edition that goes with altitude have the same mood and feel as the altitude itself. It's true to its range, and the same goes for the Grande Réserve. And when we were working on the special L bottle, we really wanted to make it very premium, just as premium as we feel about L, and specifically because it's a bottle that is not going to be available for a long time on the market and it's very limited. We really wanted to go all out with the illustration, and if you look at it closely, you see that on the picture it doesn't really show, and on the flat layout it's brought out just for you to see, but it's really black on black, so it's very luxurious and very different. You have it, so you can see like it's really just very, it doesn't have any color, as for example Grande Réserve has a bit of blue, a bit of, this is what we really want, always to be able to have this coherence between the range. Even if we're going to embark on an adventure that is really redesigning all of our bottles, we really need to make sure that they're all very coherent. They all make sense within the demographic, within the target, and within what they were like made for, and the people that they're made to, the people that they're made for.
I think you
Okay.
can.
So
I think if you want to go to
Have you ever thought of the story of a grape and what it goes through to become wine? Well, it goes through heavy rain showers, intense rays of sunlight, and powerful surges of wind, giving each vintage a unique body and character. With the help of algorithms and a whole lot of math, we mined the climate statistics, extracting large amounts of data about the three main elements that shape wine and determine its taste: precipitation, wind, and temperature. What did we do with all the numbers? 6,904 to be exact. We made them relevant, gave them voice, and let the data drive the design and fuel the narrative. We designed a bottle perfectly capable of showing you the month-by-month average temperature, level of precipitation, and direction and speed of wind for the place and year the grapes were harvested. Between Heights, 2012. Ixia, the wine that told its story. May you always be brave to tell yours.
And this is important here, Farah, to say that, like you said, it always starts from the bottle, and the main communication just rolls out from there. So this was a conversation starter on social media, because we wanted to highlight to everybody that just imagine that you're in the place of that grape. So you're under the blistering sun, under the freezing nights of Ainata, but at the end of the day, you might eventually become a fine glass of wine. So all these hardships can make perfect sense after all. And you can't imagine the positive feedback that we got on social media from this story, and the number of engagements of people that really shared their stories with us. from that. And
That's definitely a very Lebanese message that people can relate to, is, you know, going through a lot of tough shit for a year and it turning you
especially
into what you became.
of last year, yeah. Who knew what we're going to pass?
It was right on time.
The epitome of things. Yeah.
How are you guys considering everything as a winery and also as an agency?
I think we're okay. I think at the winery, what's nice is I was there this afternoon. What's nice is really to see that spring is here, even though you're home, and even though like you really don't go out. But when you go to the winery, you can see like the buds forming, and you can see like the vineyard is starting turning green, and you can see that life is going to really continue after that. So I think that's really good. Like for me, we've been actually at Xer, we're a very small team, so we've always been running around a lot. And I think that's like just really now with this downtime, it's helping us just a bit calming ourselves a bit and just taking the time. And what's nice is when you go to the winery and you just get the connection again with the earth, and when you get connection again with springs and the season, and you see that life goes on. So this too shall pass, so it's fine. I think that this is what was nice today, the highlight of my day.
You know, from our side, we are a big team actually, and we're spread across four different countries. So when all this started, we were like, for the first 2 days, we were panicking if this will work out, like working remotely. But definitely from the first week, we realized that everybody is really dedicated. So it was a no-brainer that now I can tell you that all's going well. We're doing well, and our clients are. We're just trying to cope with the situation. So as you know, we're revising strategies. So we're keeping ourselves really more than busy, and everything that's coming now, and we're just preparing to the other phases now that might come post COVID-19. So I think we're doing well.
How are you guys on a personal level?
However, we need to acknowledge on I didn't see what you say.
No, I speak.
You were gonna have a phone call later on. Okay. No, what I was trying to say is that we're both very lucky to be working in industries that don't really demand you to be present physically at work. So as long as we're connected, honestly, as an agency, we've been thriving. We've been working a lot, just revising campaigns and strategies, but like life did not stop. We're still doing what we do. So
is it
so
tough?
far, so good.
Because I mean, I know that Corona is something that the entire world is facing, but Lebanon has its own fair share of
we have our share of other problems,
things that we have to work through once lockdown starts to loosen, and you know, we supposedly need to return to our regular lives, but then there's this whole other facet of things that we need to deal with. Is that something that you guys are concerned with, and like how are you moving forward? Aurelie was mentioning that the winery is going to be opening up, and all of these things are a lot of like uncharted territory. Just to close up the session with a bit of like realness.
Yeah, so we started opening the winery again, the boutique and the terrace, so you can just have a glass of wine outside. We're trying as much as possible to just bring a bit of regularity into whatever we're living now. I think that it's not easy, specifically because of the crisis. I think that Lebanese people can get back on their feet very quickly, and I think that if it was only for Corona, we've been up already running, but we have a lot of things to deal with, like you were saying, and we just hope that after all of that, people will be able to really refocus on themselves and just rework their priorities around. I know that a lot of things will change, and for sure, like Elie and I were saying, strategies are changing, brands are changing, the way we work are changing, and everything is going to change. I just really hope the one thing doesn't change, and I was saying this before we started the call, is really like this small joy that's within the Lebanese people, and that this joy that always just keeps us alive. I think I just want to live a bit just differently than the rest of the people. So I think that I hope that really this joy will stay once everything is over and done.
Mm-hmm. And Aya, do you feel that, you know, managing brands right now is more challenging than usual, or is it that, you know, coming from a background where things are always kind of up in the air, maybe dealing with global brands, because you guys, you know, work across the world. It's kind of like, oh yeah, I've been here before. Like, I know how to maneuver.
Yeah, exactly answered that. Honestly, it's just at this time, it's time to be there for each other, like as an agency and client relationship. So let's be real, a lot of our clients might not be doing their best right now, but we always have each other. So that's why the team has been, since day one of lockdown, we're all working our best to make things keep on moving normally for the brands, doing some changes here and there. And even on a personal level, like us and the clients, we're always in a continuous discussion to make sure that we keep having hope that once this is done, it will not affect us. Like, this is just a phase and we will get back better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was a quote my mom said today, having a garden is having hope, so having a vineyard is having Elie, you were saying something?
No, I was just saying that the future is really unclear. Nobody can predict what will happen now economically or in the corona progress, let's say. But as Aya said, it's all about support. So let's keep supporting one another in terms of businesses or on a personal level, and we shall
share a bottle one day.
Yeah.
Hopefully soon.
I have 1 month here, so come join me.
Okay, guys, I want to wrap it up. Ella, thank you for sharing everything today. It was a lot of beauty and a lot of, I think, uplifting spirits involved with that. So thank you for coming on, and I hope everyone who tuned in and who will watch in the future will appreciate all the work that goes into putting all of these communications together and building a brand from the beginning. Thank you.
Thank you, Farah, for
Thank
having
you, Farah.
us.
Yalla, stay safe, everybody.
You too.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.